I say this is a special one a lot, but this is really a special one.
You're in my office.
This is so exciting. I think this is like the first podcast in the Peter McKinnon podcast setup, even before you've done a podcast.
Yeah, we basically set this whole thing up. We've never used it. I've never used these mics. I've never even this is completely new. This is the genesis.
Wow. So I get to test it out. So I'm here with Peter McKinnon, everyone. I'm sure everyone knows who you are.
Maybe not.
But
I don't know.
For the two people who don't, you want to just give us kind of an overlay what your YouTube channel is about. Who are you, Peter McKinnon?
Okay, so I would say I'm a photographer. People would be like, but you're a vlogger and you make films and you do filmmaking and teach filmmaking. And yes, that's true. I love it. But primarily, first and foremost, I would identify as a photographer. So I'm a photographer that makes videos on YouTube about how to take better photos, make better videos, all that stuff. And then I kind of supplement that with vlogs and fun things and fun content that's not always just about learning. I try to implement those things that I'm teaching into just, regular videos and stuff that people can identify with. So kind of like a little bit of a mixed bag.
When did you start your YouTube channel? Because as of right now, he has 2.5 million subscribers.
Yeah, it's wild. This December will be 2 years. Wow. From the start date.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
That is insane.
I kind of think that it's like I'm being trolled, and like Ashton Kutcher is going to come out from under this desk and be like,
and you're just waiting for the moment.
You thought you actually did that on your own? I'll be like, oh, I knew it was something.
Well, YouTubers always have a crazy half-life, so who knows how long any of our careers will last.
I say that to everybody.
That's what's so great about being a YouTuber.
Yeah.
You don't know and you won't have a job.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, kind of what we were talking about earlier. I think the best YouTubers are the ones that have things like John. He's a skater. He's a pro skater. You're a really good photographer, filmmaker. You can do stuff with your camera outside of just vlogging.
Like if YouTube just was gone tomorrow, I'd still be a photographer.
100%.
Right. So
100%. And it was so fun. I always look at, let's see, maybe it was a year and a half ago, when I feel like it was you, Mango Street, a third. Oh my gosh, I just had them on my podcast. I forgot. But all these photography channels and video channels were really popping off, and it's really interesting to me because for the first time it was good stuff and quality and educational things that were getting big. And honestly, when that happened, I had faith in YouTube again.
That's amazing.
I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting.
I never started doing the tutorials though because I saw a lack of quality for tutorials.
Right.
I come from a background making videos for a company that were actually tutorials, but for magicians.
Wow.
So we would travel around the world and find these magicians that had invented their own sleight of hand tricks. And we would essentially buy the rights to those inventions that they made, those sleights that they had come up with. And then I would film them explaining how to do it. So I come from a background of 8 years every day filming people that don't know how to be on camera, explaining to a camera how to hold a deck of cards and what to do. So I got really good at crafting tutorials. So when it came time to jump on YouTube, and I was talking with my buddy Chris Ramsey, if you've ever seen him on YouTube, he makes puzzle videos and he looks like a...
I've seen him from your
he
stuff,
looks like a warlock or something. He's the best. He looks like a Viking. But he was like, when was the last time you've made something for yourself? And I couldn't even answer that. So naturally for me, it was just well, I'll just teach what I'm good at. I'll teach how to do these things. And because of that experience making tutorials and helping other people, articulate their thoughts on camera well, I was just naturally good at it. So it just started happening. People just started watching more and more and more. So I just kept making them. And then they were like, oh, it's nice to see quality YouTube tutorials. And I was like, oh, I didn't know they weren't. But deep diving, I understand.
Yeah, and the 8 camera hacks in 90 seconds, that was the first video that really popped off for you, right?
Yeah, that wasn't even my idea. That was Chris's idea. We were having that Skype call,
Shout
and he was like,
Chris.
yo, Chris, 100% follow Chris. He's the best ever. But we were having a Skype call, and he was like, when was the last time you made something for yourself? And I was like, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Because when you get caught up in a job, even what we do right now, the last time I went shooting, not for YouTube content.
You still have to ask that question.
Or not for
day.
Instagram. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the last time I just went out just to take photos because I remember that's something I like to do.
Right.
So I couldn't answer that question. He was like, why don't you just make a video, put it on YouTube, see what happens? And I was a Vimeo guy. I was like, YouTube.
Vimeo.
Right, yeah.
I make fun of Vimeo so much, but I got to stop.
Because
it's I understand it's for a certain type of filmmaker.
Absolutely.
That makes quality things and maybe puts more attention into like the full production of it. And there is a space for people for Vimeo.
I used to call it the artist's YouTube.
Yes.
That was my, like, when people are like, what's that?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like YouTube, but like the artist's version.
Exactly. But at the same time, I always say, if you don't want your video to be seen, put it on Vimeo.
That's what Matt used to say. He's like, yeah, but like if you actually want people to watch your content, then put it on YouTube. So my buddy was like, put it on YouTube. And I was like, I don't understand. I don't like that site.
Do you have a Vimeo channel that's just kind of dead?
It's gone now. I deleted it because they were like still charging me like $80 to use it. So I was like, peace. And we're going to delete all your videos and you just take them. That's fine. I don't care. Yeah. I have them somewhere. But I was like, I don't like the UI of YouTube. The upload screen is weird. Like that stuff bothers me. It's the same reason I've never downloaded Snapchat.
I can't see grain if I put grain in the video. That was my biggest thing. Is like if I uploaded a Vimeo, it almost looked like if it was a ProRes file almost.
Oh no, I never had that.
But YouTube, so I love grain, and I would put
I put it in my
literally
photos a lot.
I would put like grain video files over my video and then just do the opacity thing. But when I started uploading YouTube, you couldn't even see it. So I got over that in one day though, because it's like, who's gonna see my stuff on Vimeo?
So that was the thing.
Yeah,
you didn't really get much traffic, and like the UI was a big thing for me. It's the same reason I never downloaded Snapchat, because I just can't bear to look at that yellow ghost icon. I can't even breathe. So like if I got up and checked like the calendar and I saw it, I just can't. So I just never got on board with that.
What did you think of the Instagram logo changing to a rainbow?
It was weird. Yeah. It was weird for like 4 months. Yeah. Now I'm used to it. If it went back, I'd probably be like, what was that?
Isn't it amazing?
I liked that.
The things that we notice that the typical person just like, if you probably told a normal person that the Instagram logo had this radical design change, they'd probably be like, what are you talking about?
That's the app that you post photos, right?
Yeah.
Like, the app that I'm on like 5 hours a day. Yeah, that one.
Exactly. Are you going to utilize the new screen time feature of the iPhones to get you off of it? So
it's actually awesome. But it makes me feel like a terrible person.
Yeah. How often are you usually on Instagram?
So honestly, the biggest screen time I've had was 5 hours and 23 minutes was my largest transgression
in one day
for last week. Yeah. Is that a lot?
I think that's a lot.
Instagram, you know what? Messages was the biggest. Messages has always been the biggest because I'm always texting.
Sense.
Yeah. But Instagram's right underneath it. Yeah. YouTube is like almost non-existent. I don't really watch much YouTube. But
really?
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Okay, yeah.
But anyways, as far as like the 8 camera hacks thing, I just made it because my friend was like, you're always doing these weird, quirky things. Like when we're shooting these magic videos, like why don't you just make like some camera hacks and film a video and put it online and whatever.
And that has like 4 million views.
Yeah, 4 million views. And I almost didn't make it, but I went down that day, made it, posted it, went to a wedding in LA, came back, and it was at like 20,000. And then it went to 40,000, 100,000, 200,000. I was like, it's happening. It's happening. I'm going to buy a Ferrari. I don't even know what that is, but like I wanted it. But then, from there I made like another video about color grading, and then that one started popping, and I was like, I should just keep up. I need to feed the beast. And now we're here.
And now we're here.
Yeah.
Who did you watch?
Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, of course. Thanks for being on. Who were you say you don't watch YouTube, but were there YouTubers that you like watched?
Definitely. So it's not that I don't watch YouTube. I just I watch more like Netflix and movies and stuff because I really want to be inspired by these like really polished filmmakers and stuff that inspire me to make tutorials on how they do the stuff that I don't know how to do. Not saying that stuff's not on YouTube, but it's just like that's where I spend most of my time when I'm offline. But the people I do watch, it's almost like not even really filmmaking related. Like I watch a lot of Philly D. He's my favorite YouTuber.
Yeah, he's great. He's the best. He's the only channel that's close to commentary that I actually like.
Yeah.
All other commentary channels are just like the worst.
I just I don't watch the news. If people are like, "Oh, do you watch horror films?" I'm like, I don't watch the news. It's just it brings me down. But I just like that he covers a wide range of stuff that most outlets wouldn't. So I watched him a lot, and then I just use it as like a search engine. Totally. I just always type in like what I needed to see. If I knew how long do I make eggs for before they're not eggs anymore? And then I'd be like, oh, this is a fun video, like fun. And there you go.
Yeah. And that's why photo video stuff works so well. I think sometimes is because it has that searchable aspect to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And going back to the creating for yourself, the thing that I say now is just like one for me, one for them. So whenever I get down on like, oh, this is such a YouTube thing or a YouTube title, it's like, Sarah, you got to play the game. But the next video you do, it'll have a YouTube thumbnail and, maybe a clickbait title, but it's for me, it's something that I want to show friends, and it's so that's kind of like what I subscribe
I still make those types of videos, but definitely not like a one for you, one for me like ratio.
Yeah,
it's usually like 20 for them maybe one for me, but I'll sit on it for 2 weeks and then contemplate if I should post it before sending it to 10 friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the struggle.
Yeah.
Let's go all the way back.
Okay.
So fill in where you need to fill in, but you worked for a camera shop.
Yes.
And then you did insurance, and then you did magic, and then you did YouTube.
Yes. Okay.
So timeline.
Let's go back.
You did not go to college, correct? Or you did?
I am 1 credit away from having a diploma, and I think it's funnier to be 1 away than to have it.
I agree.
So
I was a year and a half away.
I refuse to get it.
We'll
even if they
talk about
wanted
that.
to give it to me right now, I wouldn't take it. I'd be like, I don't want it.
No. That is amazing.
Yeah.
So camera shop right out of college?
So like I worked at a skate shop, skateboard shop. I worked at the circus. I worked at all kinds of like, I have so many jobs. Worked at like a steakhouse for one day.
The circus?
I sold snow cones and washed the elephants. It was amazing. I rode my bike there every day. One day the elephant escaped. Imagine this, like a 13-year-old kid
elephant, run.
riding his bike down the suburbs. And what do you see in front of you? Not like a nice car, an elephant swinging its trunk, just walking down the street. And you're 13 years old and you're like, that's not real. Real. It escaped from the circus. I had to ride my bike to tell them the elephant's on Alex Toner. Let's go. And then it was a big thing. Our town was famous for like 2 weeks. It was great.
That's so fun.
But I got a job working for Apple, and so did my wife.
Were you a genius?
So we got hired and we went to the orientation and we left at lunch and never went back. Yeah. So they made everybody run in, and they had this big assembly line of like all their existing employees. Like you're supposed to run in as a new employee and like high five everyone. Like
it's like a religion, I think.
It was really weird, right? So my wife and I were very anxious to like for this like initiation to happen. They're like, all right, we're gonna have everyone in like 5 minutes, and I was like, I really don't want to do the whole run-in thing. And then they were like, did you put validation on your car for parking? I was like, oh, I didn't know I had to do that. I'm like, yeah, you need to fill this out and go put it in your dash so you don't get a ticket. I was like, okay, I'll be right back. And when I came in, it was over, and Janice was already sitting down at the table. I remember when I sat down, she was like, you made me go through that by myself. I had to run in and high five everybody alone. And I was like, I missed it. But then the first thing they were like, is everyone ready to drink the apple juice? And they were all jumping on their chairs, and everyone got up like this crazy. And at that moment, they legit, I promise you, they said that. I think they think it was clever and funny, and everyone was like, oh, team spirit. And they all started jumping around. And from that moment, we left at lunch and just never went back. They called our phones like a whole bunch of times. We just ignored, block, and never looked back. I just couldn't do it. The apple juice line was just too much.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
That's you get those feelings, right?
Yeah.
When you walk into a store. And honestly, I think that's what makes great customer service, I think, is having employees that feel like they have a purpose and they love it. And then, I went to my first Apple event recently, the new iPhones.
I was jealous.
And people were clapping.
They're pumped.
And
they're hyped.
So pumped. But it would be interesting to be in it, because it would feel kind of cultish.
It was definitely,
like if you're not
felt
in
like
it.
that, because people were standing up on the chairs, like giving testimonies. Like, I never felt like I belonged anywhere, and now I was like, that's really cool. Like that these people have found a company to work for that makes them feel so special and unique. But nope. So we never went back. But what that job taught me was like, I'm just trying to find something that was a little more like tailored to my interests. Because before that, it was just like, find a part-time job, work at Best Buy. But it's like, that's where I met my wife, and it was like everything. You're selling laptops.
You met your wife at Best Buy?
Yeah. We met on Boxing Day, which is, you guys don't have Boxing Day in the States, but it's like Black Friday, the day after Christmas.
Gotcha.
It's just called Boxing Day.
Did she work there too?
She worked there too, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So have you ever watched Chuck?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
It was that.
Because that's kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah. So we met there, and then we got married. But like, working there and working at different like Office Max stores and Home Depot and keg houses and golf courses and landscaping, just trying to like State Farm, just trying to find like, I need a job. Like, what do I do?
Peter from State Farm. I can't imagine having
State
a
Farm Auto
conversation.
Claims, Peter speaking. How may I help you? Just over. I'll forward you to the adjuster. State Farm Auto Claims, Peter speaking. How may I help you? Climb the corporate ladder.
How long were you there?
They fired me on the 3-month probation day. Wow. Yeah. Because I went to New York.
Yeah. Tell me that story.
Okay. So
you were in this insurance job, just not feeling it, but you were still doing magic stuff.
Still doing magic stuff. The fire alarm went off. The fire alarm went off at State Farm, and I was like, please be on fire. If there's anyone inside, God bless, good luck, but please be on fire.
Wow.
So they marched everyone outside, like single file, like cattle, like we're animals. And we all stood in like the terrace, like kind of like the front grass area, like looking at the building, and a fire truck rolled up. 2 fire trucks rolled up, 3 fire trucks rolled up. And I started to like have actual hope. Like, this place might be on fire. This might be the day that I get out. They were in there for like 40 minutes, Sarah. And I was like, getting a little nervous. Like, this is weird. Like, I just thought like they do drills and stuff like that. But like 40 minutes, 3 trucks were all standing out front. It might be on fire. So like naturally I was browsing the internet, checking out what was happening online, because you're outside, you know, with a bunch of adjusters and insurance people, just like having the most thrilling conversations. And I noticed David Blaine was doing something in New York, because he always does these crazy stunts, right? Like frozen in ice, drowned alive. And he was doing this thing called the dive of death, where he was hanging upside down in Times Square for like 3 days, and then he was going to do something crazy at the end. And I was thinking to myself at that point, like, man, wouldn't it just be so cool to like go to something like that instead of just watching it back on TV and like hearing about it? Wouldn't it be cool to be there? And I was like, well, New York's only like a 45-minute flight. It's like an 8-hour drive, but I could drive to Buffalo, and then it's like an even faster flight. So like the gears started going. When my gears start going, it's like I just like, good luck. Like it's locked in. It has to be done. It has to be realized. So I called my cousin and was like, hey man, and he's much younger than me at the time. I was like, Matt, do you want to go to New York? He's like, well, when? I'm like, today. Yeah, like, let me just ask my mom. And like goes and asks his mom.
How old are you during this time?
I was like, I'm going to say I was like 20, 21, maybe just 22. And he would have been like 17 or something, 16 maybe, like really young. And he was like, I'm allowed to go. And I was like, sick. Like, let's buy tickets and fly from Buffalo like into New York. And then we'll just like, where are we going to stay? I'm like, well, whatever, we'll figure it out. Fate will decide. So I went up to the supervisor and I was like, I hate to do this now. I've been trying to hold it as long as I can, but I really have not been feeling well. I don't know if just standing outside, it's just, and the keys to
this fire.
Yeah,
you know?
The fire's really got to me. The keys to swallow when you're doing that stuff. So it's not, you're like, I've got this thing, and it's just like, I'm really like, I was just thinking if I could take the rest.
Oh, that's
the rest of the day off, right? Without that, I was just thinking if I could take the rest of the day off. Yeah, it just doesn't. It doesn't work. It doesn't work as well. So she was like, "Oh, you sound off.
Oh, you look off.
Take the
Go
day.
home.
Take the day." And I was like, "Thank you, Brianna. Thank you so much." I don't even know if that was her name, but I took the day, got in my Mazda Protege, and we drove to Buffalo and flew to New York and had nowhere to stay. My uncle sorted all that stuff. But like, long story long, met David Blaine, actually met Donald Trump. He was at the event, and I told him he was fired when I shook his hand because he was doing The Apprentice at that time, and he just didn't ignore. He ignored it. But I was on Conan O'Brien. It was like the greatest thing ever. I was on TV because I was like right at the front, because I actually have a tattoo of David Blaine's logo, which is like my favorite Ace of Spades design. So it actually is like a D and a B.
Yeah.
So when he saw that, he was like, let's get these guys VIP passes. And then I met all these people in the magic industry that I've always looked up to. And that was kind of like the doors opening.
You know what I love about that? All you had to do was be there.
Just go.
Like, you just went. You booked the ticket. Yeah. I'm a big fan of speaking things into motion.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was the first time I really pursued the things that I loved.
Right.
Photo and magic. And I was like, I'm doing this. I don't care what the consequences are. This is what I love. So I'm going for it.
Like it was amazing.
So I went. It was great. I got back. Brianna, I'm just going to call her Brianna. It sounds right. She was like, hey, like, can we just see you down the hall? That's the first thing right away. And I kind of knew at that moment. I was like, this doesn't feel right. And we walked. I was like, how's your weekend? Good. Like, that's not a normal answer. Like, that's a you're in trouble answer.
They know.
During
this time, though, you're not posting on Instagram and
no,
Twitter,
I had a blog.
though,
I had an actual blog. It was called
Okay.
Hi, My Name is Peter.
Okay.
And
were you posting about your New York adventures?
But I didn't know anybody at State Farm. Like, I ate lunch in my car by myself.
Right.
I didn't go to like the cafeteria. Like, I was like a big loner. Like, everyone was so
sad.
much older than me. Like, I worked around like a bunch of like older women that would just complain about their husbands all day, and I would just be like, State Farm Auto Claims, Peter speaking. Like, so she opens the door and there's an HR woman at the end of the table. She's like, have a seat. And I was like, I'll just pack my things. Like, it's fine. She slides a folder to the end of the table. Like, this is CTU interrogation, right? Tony Almeida, Jack Bauer just slides the folder.
Tony Almeida. Yeah. Oh my God. You saying that name.
Yeah. Great name.
Yeah.
And I opened the folder, pictures of me and David Blaine. Printouts of my vlog, like of my blog.
They went there.
They went to that site. They printed it out.
At least they cared.
Out. Yeah.
You know?
So I remember that she's like, I just want to know what this is. And I remember saying, oh, it's me and Dave. Like, name dropped.
We go way back, you know?
This is me and Dave. And she's like, oh, okay. Thought you were sick. And the response, this is what I said to her. This is what I actually said. I didn't realize I couldn't be sick further south from my home.
Wow.
Yeah. And right there, she cut me off and she was like, effective immediately, your employment with State Farm. I was like, yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah. So I went back to my desk, grabbed my Jack Bauer action figures, grabbed my little Fight Club bar of soap and all my little belongings, put them in a box.
You have Jack Bauer action figures.
I've got 2 on my shelf at home.
I love it.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah.
I named my kid Jack, actually, and my dog's name is Bauer. Fun fact.
Ugh, amazing.
Brought my stuff home, and that was the end. And I had to lie to my parents because I told them that State Farm approved me going to New York. So it's just like the crappiest thing about it was like my parents being like, "What happened?" And I was like, "They actually didn't approve me going to New York." And they're like, "I mean, it doesn't surprise us. Like, you got fired chasing the things you really care about." So that's what set. Okay, the next job I get needs to be somewhat related to my interests, which spawned Apple. But then when that whole apple juice thing happened, I was like, okay, that's not going to work. What's the next best thing? Camera shop. That seems like it's what I'm interested in. I can see new gear coming in. I can learn about it. Maybe there's people there that have been doing it way longer than me that I can learn from. You get to borrow the gear, like brand new stuff. I could just take it home for as long as I wanted and play with it, and then like put it back on the shelf, like so long as you didn't like spit on it and drop it in like, water and stuff like that. But it was great. And I learned so much from people there that had been doing it so much longer than me that I would never have got that knowledge. Like
it's so different being there with a person to be
incredible.
Able, like I had a lot of, when I was learning, I basically had a desk right next to the people who were making all the videos for the weekend at my church or whatever. Okay. So whenever I had like personal projects or I was working on stuff for them, I was just volunteering. Literally, I would have 5 minutes of every hour where I'd just be like, hey, I'm sorry, can you help me with this? How do you do this? And how do you do that? And I got so much experience in just being next to someone who like knew it.
Yeah.
I love learning online. I think there's so many good opportunities with people like you.
Yep.
But something's just different when you have a real person who is ahead of you in the field. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's huge. That's why
So
internships, apprenticeships.
Exactly.
So worth it.
And then I made friends with other photographers that I never had before. I didn't have photography friends. And now suddenly I had like every employee of that shop was my friend. Yeah. We're going on photo shoots. We're helping each other out. We're learning from each other. I'm helping people learn stuff, old, new, young, old. Like it was great. So I worked there for 2 years and then I left to take an internship with a company called Still Motion, which they were just like big wedding shooters. And they were starting to work with the NFL and shoot like the Army Navy games. And I don't really know what that is, but it's a big thing in the US apparently. They were doing that stuff and they were working with Callaway and all these big golf companies. And I was their editor. It was just, my job was to go through all their backlogged hard drives and just cut in and out points of any type of footage that was like salvageable. So I was like picking selects from like 4 years backlogged weddings.
Wow.
So just like, and that was when like you couldn't sync video and audio like automatically. Like you had to line it up by like waveform and timestamp, time code. You actually had to like, it was the worst. So you would like sync up the footage, make your in out points, put in your headphones, you'd start watching and the vows would start, make your in point, out, save, and just all day. And like they had steady cams and all kinds of cool stuff downstairs. And I was like, I just want to go play. And they're like, all right, we're flying to LA tonight. And I remember thinking, wouldn't that be the life? Yeah. Flying to LA to shoot something, to be paid to shoot something. Wow. And then fast forwarding to that, I was already ahead because I worked at this old wood factory where like, like crown molding and like baseboards and stuff. This company just produced baseboards and it was super lame.
I love, side note, the video you did with your buddy who does the wood and the that was really
very
cool.
cool.
What's
we worked at the camera shop too. His name's Mike Clark. His company's Hook and Stem. But we were at this wood shop and I remember it was right near the airport and my job was a conveyor belt would spit out a bunch of boards and this guy's job would be to measure them and he would mark it 10 inches. And then he'd measure another one 7 inches. And then I had 10 bins and I have to drag the 7-inch board to the 7-inch bin, then grab the 10, go back to the 10 and the 4 and do that all day. Then their bell would go off and everyone would sleep for 15 minutes. And when everyone slept for 15 minutes, I'd crack the door open and watch the planes fly out of Pearson. I remember thinking to myself,
one day
I want to be on those planes.
Wow.
So it's just cool that like, I think being a YouTuber and being in like the position that both you and I are in, no one really gets to hear those stories because like we were there too. Yeah. Like I'm sitting in a factory while people are sleeping, watching planes fly into the air. Like just like I want to get there. How do I get there? And it was this manifestation of all of these years leading up to this point where it's like Philip Bloom, filmmaker, describes my story as you are an overnight success that took 29 years. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, pretty much.
Whenever you think someone's an overnight success,
it's almost an insult.
Yeah. And it's like 9 out of 10 times, I promise you that's not the case. And even people like to dismiss like Taylor Swift for some reason, but she's been doing it since like she was 12.
Yeah.
You know? And so many things. I think the bad jobs and just getting out there and doing things, it helps so much to do something that you hate, because you do get to kind of like start daydreaming, start thinking, what do I really want to do?
You build goals while you're doing that
Exactly.
stuff.
And it really matters what you're doing, you know, as your side projects. It's like, okay, well, I have to go to work my 9 to 5, but how can I use 5 to 2 a.m.?
Yeah.
And that's what college and school was basically my full-time job. Since the moment I went to high school in 9th grade, it's like, oh, school sucks. Wait, this is the worst. I still have to try because I need to get a scholarship for college. It's so freaking expensive. But I hated school so much that I so passionately was searching out something the moment the bell rang.
So you're like me. You're just totally anti-establishment. I was like, I don't care. If you tell me it's that way, I'm going to go that way.
100%.
I have to go that way.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why I think I had so many random jobs.
Yeah.
I remember like I was working a landscaping job once, and we were delivering trees to like a nursery, and one fell off the truck, and they're like, yo, you want to grab that? And it's my first day, and I hopped off and grabbed it, and they left. I'd walk like 2 miles back to like with a tree. I ditched the tree halfway, but like they bullied me.
Oh my gosh.
It was awful. So like, just like,
but see,
I wouldn't change it.
Exactly. And I would be more worried if you're like a parent or something. I'd be more worried if your kids or maybe something are not seeking things out. I think like getting into trouble, trying things, that's fine. You're a kid, you know, you're young.
You figure it out.
And I think the biggest question people have is like, okay, great. Follow your passions. That's cool. But how do I find my passion?
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be Taylor Swift's guitar player. I thought that was going to be my profession, you know, like I was like, you know, I moved to Nashville.
I tried out for the Blue Man Group once.
What?
Yeah.
What do you mean you tried out for the Blue Man Group?
I wanted to be a drummer in the Blue Man Group. I grew up a drummer. My whole family's like very like music oriented. So I wanted to do that.
How did I not know that you were a drummer, Peter?
You didn't know that?
Maybe it just slipped my mind.
Oh yeah, I've been drumming since like grade 6.
What is our band name going to be called? So we just need to find a singer.
We need a singer.
Yeah. And then maybe a bass player.
Bass player might help.
Some keys.
Yeah.
All right. So sending that out into the internet, guys. You can comment below.
Comment below our band name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where is it going?
That'll be fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So fun. But I think just like staying curious and doing anything and everything. I mean, I babysat so much. I gave guitar lessons and like, you know, had so many. I refereed basketball.
Yeah.
But luckily, I think too, it's really important to push as far as you can into your hobbies, because then you're going to learn if you truly like it or not. Yeah. And it's funny because like babysitting, I love kids so much. I have an awesome mom.
Same.
Yeah, they're great, right? Jeannie, best mom ever, stay-at-home mom.
She looks amazing.
So, oh my gosh, I love her so much. But honestly, in middle school, because I had my Jeannie and I like saw, like I grew up in a good bubble. It was fine. My dad went to work. My mom cooked and did my laundry. It's great. But I was like, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. I legitimately, that was my goal in life.
Yeah,
was to be a mom, a stay-at-home mom.
That's like the hardest job in the world.
Oh yeah. And oh my God, anyone listening out there, stay-at-home mom, amazing.
Yeah, it's
We
ridiculous.
love you. But then all I was doing is babysitting through like, since I was 12 up until I was in college, babysitting.
Babysit for me.
No, I legit will babysit your kids because I love them and I miss that part of my life.
Yeah.
However, that was kind of what pushed me into like, oh, maybe I started getting into music. I was like, this is exciting. New dreams.
Let's see where this path goes.
Yeah. So that whole rant is just, I think if you push harder into what you think you want to, you might have new dreams. And that's,
I think so.
Yeah.
I really supported parents too. Like I remember when I was telling my dad, like, I want to be a magician.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you say that to, like, my kid said that to me. I'd be like, that's not a good choice.
Go study.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, chances are you might not be David Copperfield. You might be, but like, we'll put a pin in that. And that's probably like the most, but my dad was like, all right, like, what do we need to do? Like, how do we get you to the top from that point? to like when I stopped being a magician was the day that I shared the stage with Copperfield in Vegas, and like we both did talks together.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, from me telling my dad as a kid, like I want to do magic,
That's cool.
to my dad taking me to see Copperfield when I was a kid, to like then sharing a Vegas stage with the same guy all these years later. And I remember at that point I was like, well, like where do I go from here? Like, I feel like I'm done now. And that's what kind of pushed this shift into YouTube.
That is so interesting. So
I just jumped all over there. I'm sorry.
No, I love that, because I didn't know that either. So you did videos of magic and stuff, but at the same time, were you developing kind of like your own, credibility as a magician? Like, would you
like
tour,
I've got
perform?
books. Like I wrote books and everything. Like people have books
Wow.
like that I've written about, like sleights that I've developed and stuff like that. And we would give lectures and put out products. And yeah, like that was just like be the best sleight of hand artist I could possibly be. And I was gaining traction and momentum within that industry. But it's just never anything that I was like, I just want this so bad. Like I just want this. And like I think I started getting distracted, and I kind of would come and go with the magic. I'd be like really hardcore into it for 6 months, and then I'd be like, I wouldn't touch a deck of cards for a month. And that's bad. Like I would be like every day, no matter where I was, driving one-handed, just practicing sleights all the time. Like you put a deck of cards on the table, you hand me any stack of cards and I'll be like 13. And I just know, because they're in my hands so much. You just know, like it just happens. And then I just started kind of getting bored and distracted, and I started a leather making business. Like
What?
I started making purses and bags and wallets and belts and like handmade goods, and I would order leather from these really popular tanneries in Chicago, and they would ship it up. And my mentor was from Capel, Texas, which is why I know how to say it.
That is so funny.
Yeah, and he would like teach me how to hand stitch and saddle stitch, and I bought machines from Texas, and like they would ship them on flatbeds, and I learned how to sew and all this stuff. And I think that was me just trying to find a new outlet to,
Was it
use
weird?
my creativity.
Yeah. Was it weird when you started falling out of love? Because when I was more
scary.
concerned about the guitar gear than actually playing, I wouldn't sit down and practice, but I was like, oh, maybe I should buy a new amp or something. But I wasn't practicing, and I freaked out because I was like, I gotta find something new.
I think it started to hit me when I would like pick up a deck of cards and then start dropping them and be like a little sloppier, or I would like mess up a trick, or someone would be like, show me something, and I'd be like nervous. And I'm like, oh,
that's weird.
Nerves are good, but like I've been doing this for like 15 years. Like I'm so used to it. I just don't, like it's nothing. But now I'm like scared that I might mess up, or what these people think of me. And I was like, that means I'm not doing it as much. And I was like, well, maybe I should just focus on this. And then I went hard into the leather. I was doing farmers markets and stuff like that and showing up. And then one day I remember I worked so hard to stock up for this farmer's market. I was making bags and wallets and stitching. It was like 4 a.m. Casey's vlogs on repeat. I wasn't even a YouTuber. I was just watching his, like when he was daily vlogging, like maybe like 30 vlogs into his daily vlog. And I'm sitting there stitching wallets and gluing stuff and like working on products for this farmer's market. And the day came, and I tried so hard to sell as much as I could to people. And I grew up a salesman and like working in sales and, working with this magic company and selling and marketing. I made $200 all day, but like I spent like $2,000 in materials, and the amount of hours I spent, ample. And I remember getting home, and this is what spawned me to make 8 camera hacks in 90 seconds. I got home and I sat down, and I was in my little like that YouTube office that everyone knows my tutorials from. That was my leather workshop. It looked totally different. It was like there was sewing machines and big presses and all kinds of weird stuff in there. And I sat down, and my 5D was on my desk. And I remember looking at it and thinking, I worked so hard. I wanted to make that potentially like an avenue for maybe this would be like my new job. Maybe I'll leave this magic company and be like a leathersmith, like a leather craftsman, like, and maybe that will be how I support my family. But after this day, it really discouraged me, because I was like, I put everything I had into that and made $200, and like that's just not enough to leave this job, which I'm like starting to feel like I want to do. Looked at my camera and was like, why am I not using that? I could book a photo shoot right now, like I used to be doing, and make like $2,500 in an hour just taking portraits. And that next morning is when I called Chris and was like, I don't know what to do, man. Like this leather stuff just isn't working out. And like I'm videos, and that brings you right back to him saying, when's the last time you made a video for yourself? And I made 8 camera hacks in 90 seconds the day after that farmer's market.
Wow.
And then everything changed.
All right, see you guys in the next episode. That's amazing. Yeah, well, and so I think that's an interesting segue in. So making money overnight, and the difference between digital products and blah blah blah.
Sure.
in YouTube and videos and photos, there's so many things you can do, right? And in terms of making money online, building your online business, there's a lot of stuff that I think you have done and a lot of new creators are doing that is still so new in terms of digital products. You know, that's essentially making money overnight. You could get paid to go do a video shoot, but you're actually there, you're spending your time, you know. And so when YouTube started gaining traction, what was kind of what was the initial instinct? I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to make this my living? Because Google AdSense, like for the people out there, like you have to be a Logan Paul, I feel like, in order to make crazy AdSense money. Like, I'm sure it's fine for you, but like people think that AdSense is so much more than it is when it's really not.
No.
So did you kind of have to
recognize that?
Yeah, recognize that.
And
like,
was like,
what was the next
the
step?
key to this is multiple streams of revenue.
Right.
Have things running in the background that are going to make me money when I'm sleeping. In case one goes down, this is still going. If 3 go down, that's still going. And I've been doing that early on. Like I remember I joined iStock Photo back in like 2004 and I made 35 grand over like almost over a few months, just putting all my photos that I went specifically to take for stock photography online so that they were earning for me overnight. When I was like a punk, I was like 19 years old making 30 grand.
Tyler Stallman has that same story. Do you know who that is? He's
No.
a YouTuber, but same website and same story. Yeah.
I remember like I would just go to like a dealership and take the most monotonous, boring, like it would get 0 likes on Instagram today. I'd see this lineup of cars and I'm like, nah, people will use that. Like people need that to advertise a car sale or a dealership opening. I went and took a picture of a pile of leaves. I had all my friends dress up in like brandless clothing, holding portfolios and like checking each other's papers with glasses because I was like, businesses will need that stuff. And those photos took off and made a living. Like they paid my car. Like my friend made triple the amount that I did and bought a Jeep before he was like 20, like just cash from iStock Photos. Like I kind of had that, like, this is what I should use this platform to like, not just like make a living, but secure my future. So doing that with digital products and stuff, it just came naturally to me. So
someone had a question on Twitter. Were you born with the ability to make sound effects or did you develop that? Because
that's one of the
digital
products I have, right?
that you have is a sound effects pack.
I think I've always just been obsessed with just making little like explosions and you got helicopters coming in and just like craziness. And I'm just always making just weird sounds. And like whenever pop tags come up on like a video, that's always like my own sounds and stuff like that.
That was like exact to a pop effect I use.
Yeah, I use it all the time. Feel free to take it out of this podcast.
Yeah. There you go. Free Peter McKinnon
or
sound
use
effects.
My sound pack.
You just gave us like 4 free ones right there.
But like I always see all the comments like, oh, you love making sound effects. You're always making sound effects. And I was like, I am always making sound effects. I should just like make them into a professional mic with someone like Andrew that knows what he's doing and he can mix and master them into like digital files and I can just sell them. And like they might not be like the ultimate THX professionally Hollywood produced sounds, but for vlogs and stuff, I use them almost every day in my vlogs. So yeah, I think it just like, I wouldn't say the sounds came naturally, but like the entrepreneurial, like,
well, it sounds like you had a lot
drive.
of practice with that entrepreneurial
and like working
spirit.
for this company, it was this magic company was a small company. Like I worked with the owner every day. So I learned a lot from him and like learned a lot where like he would implement my ideas into this huge company and it wouldn't be like, you work at Best Buy, you're never going to meet the owner or anything like that. And like, if you have an idea as a Best Buy employee, like chances are like, you're not going to be like, I'm going to recommend this and tomorrow it's implemented. That was what it was like with this magic company. So I could be like, hey, I think we should put the site dark for 2 days to make anticipation and like cut all sales. And he'd be like, yes. And he was amped and he trusted us, which like just gave me confidence to be able to do this stuff on my own. So when it came to the YouTube, I was like, okay, cool. AdSense will make money, but like we need to eat as well. Right. And if that goes down, what do we do? So you have to be creative in like how you're gonna, supplement that.
100%. Yeah. What is your favorite part about making videos? So for me, I think I love editing the most, and when I have to film, I'm just like, oh.
I think watching them back when I'm done. Like I like sitting back and being like
I made that.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
But that was cool. Like I like watching them back. It's just like it feels good. Like it feels like when I would finish a wallet and you put that last polish on it and then just look at it and be like, damn, like I made this. I think it's just like the enjoyment of seeing something that started as nothing, started as an idea, and then people are going to benefit, hopefully be inspired, learn, all from nothing. Like from nothing, you're just walking into work and you're like, wouldn't it be cool if maybe we did this? And then fast forward 2 days and then people are like, wow, this made me see this differently. And now I'm making money as a photographer. And I'm like, ugh, yeah, that's so crazy. Like I'm just sitting in my bedroom, talking to a camera by myself.
It's so cool.
And it's helped you. And that's the coolest part.
It seems like you've always had the go-getter spirit. Yeah. Do you think that came from your family and your parents, just like supporting?
So. Yeah, my dad was really like that. My whole family was really like that. My mom, my sister, especially my dad, like owned his own business and, always had.
He makes guitars, right?
He makes acoustic guitars. He's retired now, but like now he makes acoustic guitars for like a living day in and day out. But it's just cool that he's like, I'm, retired, I'm 75, and I'm just going to make guitars for a living. And he's like, all right, well, go do it. And I think I have the same kind of thing. Like, all right, well, I'm now going to start a leather business. And he's like, sweet, make me a belt. I'm like, all right. So like whenever I get into something, I get into it hard. Like I'm not just like a toes in the water. I'm like fully like I'm 30 feet below. Yeah. So, and sometimes that's a problem.
But I think that's when you actually figure out what you want to do with your life. Yeah. I think people live in that halfway land for too long. Yeah. And then they look up and like, oh my God, I've been an insurance person for 20 years.
Yeah. I think it's hard to get out of that. I think it's comfortable and you're like, well, I have friends. It's easy. I know it. Like it's a commute's 5 minutes. Like it's good. I'm good. Yeah. But it's like, no problem. I felt the same way. But like, had I just been okay with that, I would have missed this. Right. Which I feel like I'm meant to do. And people always ask me the question, like, what's next? I'm like, I've been here for 2 years. Like, I'm just getting started. Like, what's next? I worked my whole life to get to this podcast right here, if you will. Like, I worked so hard to get to the point where, like, I'd be interesting enough for you to come interview me for your channel. Like, this is the finish line. Yeah. Right? So what's next is just maintaining this, like just having fun and continuing to do what I do and like whatever rolls around. But I'm not a guy that likes to make plans. Mm-hmm. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Let's get a little geary before we get into some audience questions.
Love it.
What is your go-to editing setup? Because I see you have a MacBook, but then you also have an iMac at home.
Yeah, I got an iMac Pro at home.
Is the iMac Pro basically where you do most of your editing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I can just wake up, make coffee, head upstairs, and just like thrash all day long.
So is that your first, like when you wake up, is that your creative time? And then like the afternoons are for emails, or like what's your routine?
I like to wake up early. It doesn't always happen because I also like to sleep. But like just getting up in the morning, it always just feels like no one else is awake yet. And I love that I feel like I'm getting a head start on the day. Like literally I feel like I'm cheating. I'm like, I've got all these hours before everyone's up. Amateurs. Like by the time you awake and rub your eyes, I've already published, I've already made 3 coffees, had 6 phone calls, and you feel great. And you sleep until 10:30 even. I wake up and I'm like, whatever. Yeah. Who cares? Yeah. It's going back to bed. It's done. I've ruined everything. Nothing matters.
I'm going to try to be an early riser. It's so hard for me. But every productive, So I'm a late at night person, but I will say every time I wake up early, I feel so good. When you start out correctly,
it's like, way better.
That's when it's good, you know? So you have iMac. So what's like the one lens that if you could only have one lens for like a year, what would it be?
I would have said a year ago, the 24 mil, 1.4, because it's just really bright, really fast. It's a good kind of like, it's not too wide and it's not too zoomed in. But I've just been using the 16 to 35 like nonstop for 2 years since I started vlogging because 2.8 because it's still fast. It's good. I can get a little bit further. I can get nice and wide, and it's just really versatile for vlogging, for photos, for everything. I'm doing time lapses, whatever I want. It seems to check most of the boxes most of the time. Yeah. So I feel like I would stick with that 16 to 35.
I would 100%. That's what I like about the Canon 16 to 35 isn't as the 2.8. Yeah, because they recently came out with 2.8 with IS, right? Previously, it was only the F4 with IS. I think.
None of them have IS.
I think the F4 does. Because that's
I
the
didn't even
one
know there's an
had.
F4. There's an F4?
Yeah. So I think
F4, I just, like, I don't even think about it. I'm like, no. That's
Exactly.
that's like, no.
So I think that's the one I had
Unacceptable.
when I was shooting Canon.
Okay.
But the Sony f2.8, the G series lenses are so heavy.
They're like paint cans.
Oh my
But the new RF lenses are like
gosh.
paint cans too.
Yeah.
So they're like just
So
as big.
that's why I vlog with the f4.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I see Chris's 2.8 and the gooey background, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
That's the thing. Like,
I
and that's
wish-
why I vlog with the 1DX. Like, it's
Yeah.
so heavy. And actually, like, I went for massage in Banff for like the first time in like 5 years. And the first thing
Did
she
they
said,
notice something?
she was like, just so you know, like, I'm going to work on your right side a lot more because it's really misaligned from your left. And I was like, oh, why? She's like, what do you do for a living? I was like, I vlog, but let me just take a shot in the dark here. I hold a really heavy camera out on like a stick. And she's like, that's exactly why.
Wow.
And I was like,
so you tweaked your entire...
injury.
Oh my
So
God. See, guys, being a vlogger is so hard.
It's so hard.
It's hard out here.
Honestly, though, I use that camera not because it's convenient and it's portable and it's, you know, the right choice.
Yeah.
It just ticks most of the boxes for my personal needs.
Yeah.
So like I said at the very beginning, I'm a photographer first and foremost. So being able to flip over to the photo mode of the 1DX and have all those features is why I used it primarily for the past 2 years. So
we won't get into specific things, but
Sure.
you all of a sudden have all this attention.
Yeah.
And that means people have opinions on
Sure,
you
yeah.
and what you do, how you live your life. How does that like affect you? Does that stay in the office? Like, do you have your time where like, oh my God, okay, maybe I'm going to give 30 minutes to this person, maybe type a response back, but then just delete it. What's
Sure.
how do you maneuver the world of like people commenting on
Yeah,
you?
I'd like to say it doesn't bother me, but it bothers everybody. I don't think it matters if you're a small creator or a big creator. I just think you need to be like cognizant of how much you let it bother you. I heard something once, it's like you need to learn how to own your emotions and control your emotions. So like if you think a comment ruins your day, like you let the comment ruin your day. So like I know people are going to have opinions because people use different things, and some people don't like my energy and some people like my energy and my positivity and cameras and different brands and stuff like that. But it's just like, it's just a grain of salt. Like I don't like Pepsi, but like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So like ultimately it doesn't matter what people's opinions are or what they think. Like I'll take criticism and I'll take feedback because I love to be able to improve myself. So if people have constructive criticism or they're like, hey, if you were doing this, it would help this and it would make this better. But if it's just like straight up negativity or criticism without any type of, you know, beneficial information that make me better, then I just ignore it the best I can. Yeah. There's days I do better than others, but it just comes with the job. And that's like that's one of the things I tell people who are just starting YouTube, like, just know, like, it's gonna happen. It sucks, but like, let it roll off your back because ultimately it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah. And the best thing, I mean, my mom would always say is like, ignore it, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you don't understand, you know?
But it's mean.
It's mean. It's so mean.
But they're not right.
Yeah. And I used to sit there and respond to people, but now I feel like so powerful when I just say like, hide user forever.
Yeah.
So if someone just makes a gnarly comment, I'm like, you don't get to comment on this channel ever again.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Maddie. Like he's like, I've never responded to a negative comment once. And I'm like,
you want to reinforce the positive, right?
I wish that's I crack sometimes and I'm like,
we're all human.
Well, it's weird because like people will be like, I disagree, that lens isn't good. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like maybe you shoot something different and maybe it's not good for you. And that's a very good possibility that this lens sucks for you, but it's great for me and for what I use. But when people are like, cut your hair, skid. I'm like, all right, how does that have anything to do with like aperture? And like, I guarantee if they were in front of you, they would never say those things. But those comments are the ones I delete just because I'm like, I don't have time for that. So I'll just delete that kind of thing, or I'll just delete the user and hide, same thing. Block. Peace.
Well, let's see what the people have to say who love you dearly. I took to Twitter.
Oh, okay. Wicked.
And asked,
I love
if you
Twitter.
could ask Peter McKinnon anything, what would you ask? So the first one actually is Roberto Blake. He has a video message for you.
Fun. Is it going to pop up on the screen?
Yes.
Wait for it.
Yes.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. Thank you so much. So this is a minute-long question.
Wow.
So we might have to
take an intermission.
Yeah.
Hey, Sarah. So if I could ask Peter McKinnon one thing, I would ask what it's like to balance being a creative entrepreneur who runs your own business, does YouTube almost daily, and balance that with being a husband and a father. I'm somebody who's in their 30s. I'm looking at what the future could look like for me personally. And so very selfishly, I would love the answer to this question, because every time I try to imagine that as much as I want it, I try to think about, for as hard as I work, could I work as hard as someone like Peter and still maintain those kind of relationships in my life in a healthy way with all the travel and all the hard work and hustle? Can you?
Yeah.
So how do you balance it?
Good question. I get asked that a lot. It's not easy. It's difficult. Like, I'd be lying if I was like, whatever, like, it's all good. It's all works out, and just make videos, and family life's great all the time. Like, it's amazing.
Right.
I think you need to be willing to make sacrifices, and communication is important. So sticking to a schedule, which I'm not very good at, but I try to do that, so that you just have expectations. Like, everyone involved in my business and my family, we all have expectations of each other. Like, I have personal things, like I want to be home for bedtime. I want to be there when my kids wake up in the morning. So like making sure I hit those marks, and then making sure that I help my wife as much as I can, and also make sure that I get X amount of videos that I want to personally fulfill my channel and like my need as, a creator. I don't hit it every week. Sometimes I lack in the family department, and sometimes I lack in the creative department. But I think it's just constantly understanding that, like, you're a human. You need to have breaks, but you need to also be a dad and a husband and run this business, and just be okay that it's not always going to work out the way you think it's going to. So not putting too many eggs in one spot, right? So I would just say, if I had to come up with a really short version of that, it's almost like asking the question is like the wrong mindset to be in. Like, if you're asking the question, it's because you're probably already putting your focus and energy in the wrong spot. So just like eliminating the like, okay, how do I balance? Right. And just like make an effort to balance.
Yeah.
Instead of constantly thinking about it.
It's never perfect, but I like
No.
what you said, communication. I mean, that's huge in any type of relationship.
I mean, I'm bad in some, like, I don't take breaks enough at all. And like, bringing Maddie back into this again, like he's a great example for me, and that's why it's great working with him, just because. And for those of you I share the office with Maddie, and he runs a channel as well.
He seems like a good, just all around cornerstone.
Well, that's the thing, because, like,
for just all things.
And he is, and it's great because like I'm able to. He just walked back in. No, I just think like it's nice having someone to put you in check.
Yeah.
So it's like, dude, you've been going like way too hard. Like, you're gonna burn out. Like, take a break. So it's you need reminders. Like, we're all human beings, and like you might just be grinding way too hard, and then you forget to take a break, and then your family life suffers. Or I don't think you can ever have too much family time, because ultimately I would rather my channel completely crumble and die than jeopardize any type of relationship I have with my family, my kids, and my wife. But that being said, that they still need to understand that dad has to work. And this job, particularly with the travel and different things that come with it, those things need to be done as well. But my wife's super awesome with it, and like our thing together is like, work as long as you want, whatever. But when you come home, just be home.
Right. Don't be on your phone.
Because it's so hard to
exactly.
just like not like check that studio app and like how many likes did this get.
Ugh.
I'm still reading comments. So like being
YouTube
able to just right. So just being able to turn that off to respect their time is where like that balance comes in. And then the travel, I think people see it more so as like vacations. They're like, you travel so much. And I'm like, no, you guys don't realize, like, I flew to Finland for a day.
Yeah.
Gave a talk and flew back.
Yeah.
Like we go to New York for 48 hours and back. So it's not like we're gone for ample amount of time. Like, if I come to the studio here and work a full day and then work another full day tomorrow, and like maybe I miss bedtime twice, I may as well be in New York traveling, because it's like the same thing. So yeah, I think it's just working on that balance and knowing when it's time to stop.
100%.
Yeah.
With the Skillshares and Creative Lives and all the things and digital downloads, Carlos asked, would you be interested in creating a film photography course where we could get feedback from you and have private sessions in order for young creatives to improve our skills?
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
You should create it. No, like, I would love to do 100 more things, but this circles back to what we just talked about. Like, I wouldn't be able to fit it in without compromising something right now that I care about more.
Right.
So I'm still.
And there'd have to be a certain price tag associated with it that makes it worth it.
So it'd be. You need to find the time, and then it would have to fit into something that would be a you know, it would bump something else.
Right.
So
Totally. Other than patience and hard work, Alex asks, what has been been the biggest factor in becoming successful on YouTube?
I think you can't just wake up and decide. They seem to have it figured out. I'm going to do that. Right. I'm going to be a YouTuber. I'm going to start today. You can, but I think with any like person that's like, wow, they're really meant for that. Like Casey's just a good vlogger. Like he's just found that niche. Like it just happened. I don't think necessarily he was like, I'm gonna be a YouTuber today, and it started. Like it happened. Like you were making videos for your church, and Maddie's making videos for his church, and I was making videos for a magic company, and like I was convinced to put something on YouTube, and it just like manifested into something natural. So I think it just kind of happens.
Yeah, I think very rarely the people who you see making YouTube as a living today, unless they have other famous YouTube friends, most of the people didn't say, I want to be a YouTuber and then be a YouTuber. They're just like showing whatever their passion is, whatever they're stoked on, and they're doing it.
My goal was to work for myself, doing what I wanted to do every day. And maybe in the future, that's not even YouTube. But as long as I'm still realizing that, because that's been the dream forever, I'm happy with that.
You know what's so funny? You'll probably hate this, but someone came up to me at Buffer Festival, and they weren't aware who you were, but they learned about you through Buffer since you were there hanging out.
Yeah.
And they go, yeah, I've been hearing about this Peter McKinnon dude, and I guess he was here the other day, and yeah, I checked out his channel. He's pretty cool. He was the person that like Casey took under his wings, and he's like big now, right? And I'm like, wow, I mean, you had 1.5 million subscribers before you even collabed with Casey.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, if Peter was here, he would.
I don't, it doesn't bother me at all, because like, it's almost like anyone that hangs out with Casey is just like, you're instantly categorized and like, oh, SARA DIETSCHY, that's the girl he shouted out and made her career.
Yeah.
Oh, like Peter McKinnon, when he got him like that many subs in a day, and then he became a famous YouTuber. Or Dan Mace is, oh, that guy's the guy that hangs out with Casey and is now popular because of that. Like, no, Dan Mace is dope.
Yeah.
That's why Dan Mace is awesome. And like
a ton of videos.
And you're the same way, right? Yeah. Like you were making videos long before you ever made that video.
Yeah.
But you also had the creative knowledge and wherewithal to make that video because you knew it might do well. And like that's good business. And that's just being smart and creative.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't bother me. I just think those people that think that are just like, they're just not in the know.
Right.
They're just not up to speed.
Yeah.
And but I don't mind it.
I had a comment on my video recently that made me cringe, but basically they were just like, Sarah, I don't have famous YouTuber friends to shout me out to get famous, like to get big on YouTube. Yeah. How do I do it? I'm not like you. And I'm like, honey, I was in Texas.
Good content.
But I was in Grapevine, Texas, with no famous YouTube people, you know, like I hang out with YouTube people now, and I was making stuff
riding a real skateboard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was, you know, at 4,000 subscribers before I even knew really what the YouTube community was, and that's when I started watching Casey and stuff, and he didn't know who I was before, you know, it was that video, and then everything happened. So it's like it is possible to get attention even if you don't have that famous YouTube friend, you know. It's going to be harder work, but it's like, no, we didn't.
If you have a good idea and like a drive, I think anything's possible. So
third to last question, ask, how many hours a day do you sleep? Are you a good sleeper?
I sleep a lot. I go to bed at like 8.
Okay.
Between like 8
like 8 hours?
I go to bed at like 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. and I wake up at like 7.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love to hear that.
Mind you, I do like stay in my bed and watch like I binged that Jack Ryan show.
It was so good.
Until like 4 a.m. the other night.
Do you think he was Jim like in that show?
No, he's the best. When people are like, I can't see anything but The Office, I'm like, I just see a badass dude that just can do anything good.
There were some moments when he was like on the date and stuff and he was doing his like
but that's why he's amazing.
Yeah.
Because like have you seen the movie 13 Hours?
Yeah, it's good.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And like what was he, just A Quiet Place?
Yeah.
I wish we were friends.
Him and Emily Blunt. I want to go on a double date with him.
Yeah.
So
I just want to stand outside their window and just like put my hand on the glass. It's like,
please hang out.
Yeah, it was great. So there's some nights where I just like, I watch YouTube or I watch Netflix and stuff like that in bed, and then I get less sleep. But no, sleep's a big priority for me. I'm not one of the guys that's like, I'll never sleep because it's a waste of time. Like,
I'll sleep when I'm dead.
You kind of need it or you'll die.
Exactly. So, your person is what you need to take care of.
And it's a lot different too when you have kids.
Exactly.
And like, I want to have energy for them. I don't want to be like, Dad's tired.
Yeah.
go away. I want to
Yeah.
no, jump on my back and let's just get wrecked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
How do you take your coffee? That was a lot of
okay.
people ask that question.
Yeah.
Because you love coffee. You always talk about it.
Yep.
Black cream, 2%.
So I'm going to drop the
almond
bomb
milk.
on this channel.
Okay.
I actually hate coffee. It's just for the vlog.
All right. Creative exchange
see you later.
exclusive.
No.
Yep.
No, I love it. I love coffee. I take it differently depending where it's from and who's making it. So to get like not super technical, different types of coffee from different types of the world taste different. Like I told you earlier, Ethiopian coffee is naturally sweeter than like a Colombian that would be a lot stronger. So if I'm drinking like an Ethiopian and maybe it was made via the pour over method from someone that really knows what they're doing,
Can I
they
just
weighed
take it
out.
black?
And I would just take it back black that way, because they really know what they're doing. But if I was going to like a Dunkin' Donuts, it's in the States, or Tim Hortons or something, they don't know how to make it. So I'm like, I need milk and sugar.
Yeah. What's your
so
feeling
we
of
would call that a
Starbucks?
double in Canada.
Yeah.
Which is two milk, 2 sugar.
Yeah.
2 cream, 2 sugar. Actually, cream just makes me feel like I'm drinking butter. So
Yeah.
and you can get what's called a 4x4 here, which is 4 cream, 4 sugar.
And you just go to the hospital
and you
after?
go to the hospital. So I've seen people can I get an extra large 4x4? And I'm like, oh. And then up north, Wayne Gretzky is number 99. So people ask for a Wayne Gretzky, and that's 9 cream, 9 sugar. And that's just offensive.
What?
That's just offensive
That's not
to
even
me.
coffee
No.
at that point.
So if I'm going to if I was going to Dunkin' Donuts, I'd probably just say like 2 milk, 2 sugar.
Yeah.
Starbucks, I'd probably get like some kind of espresso based drink, which usually has like a cappuccino or some form of milk. And then in that case, like I don't put sugar or anything in those. So it's usually black if it's done right, or milk and sugar if it's not.
That's a good method.
Yeah.
I approve of that.
Yeah.
Last question.
Yep.
Any creative wisdom you want to put out there for people that are like, I want to be Peter. Well, don't be Peter McKinnon. Be yourself, guys. But anyone who wants to put out stuff, they're photo, video people, how do they break through the chaos? There's a lot out there right now.
I would just say pick one thing that you like and do it for 31 days. Every single day. Make 31 videos. Even if you don't post them, still make them, because you can watch them back and learn from that archive of 31. But you don't know if you like anything doing it twice, 3 times, next week, 2 weeks from now. So if you're going to want to be I want to be a tech reviewer. Review like 15 products, whatever, but make like 30 videos or take 30 photos of something. Go out every single day. That's the only way I think you can actually, I think it's even like scientifically said that like to create like a pattern or an addiction, not an addiction, but like, I don't know the word for it right now, but to like get into that cycle where it sticks, you have to do something in repetition for X amount of days. And I think it's something like 31 days. So I think for anyone who's interested in this field, do it and put everything you have into it, but stay consistent with it for a solid month, posting that stuff or not, and then see where you stand. Because you might be like, that's too much work, or I didn't really enjoy the stuff I was talking about, because after 31 days, I don't care about the new iPhone, or I don't care about cameras. But maybe after 31 days, you're like, I need another 31 days because that was everything I hoped it would be and more. And then So I think the creative advice is pick the thing that you're interested in and go hard for a certain amount of time and then evaluate.
It's good.
Yeah.
And consistency is what helped me. The moment I was like, okay, it's not a lot, but I'm going to do 1 video a week.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, oh,
yeah,
I could do this. This is exciting.
Consistency is good.
Yeah.
I think also just being, and this is something I'm learning recently, is being okay with just turning it off. Being okay and not afraid to just be like, okay, I don't have to go hard for 31 days after you've been doing it and you're a little bit established. It's like, it's just as creative for you to not be creative.
That's how I am now.
Yeah,
I'm like,
so-
right now I'm trying to post 5 videos in a week, but that's exciting to me because I haven't
so
done that
many. Like
in
3,
a while.
3 for me is like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to go down even. Like I
Yeah.
might just go to 2.
Yeah.
The dream, 1 dope video a week. But that way I could like actually plan and put like
Totally.
and tweak and like I don't know what it is to tweak. Imagine.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to send a video to Jeannie and being like, let's do revisions on Thursday.
Right.
Oh
And
my
see,
God,
I
the
don't
dream.
even exactly. And the fact that I have this argument with Wi-Fi a lot where people are like, it doesn't matter. Like, what's the difference between 500 up and down or 100 up and down? I'm like, guys, you don't realize I finish my video 5 minutes before it's up on YouTube. So like having fast internet and everything,
helps, yeah.
but it helps. But wouldn't that be the dream to just be ahead? I hear Maddie's like
100 videos ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's done like next year already.
Yeah. Wow. So we'll have Maddie on the next podcast, guys. I'll
Yes,
come back
you
for
have
Maddie.
to. Yeah.
But when this is up, do you think you guys are going to have your podcast?
I think, we're going to, you'll see, you will see
Okay.
something from
So
from
if
this
it's
set
live, guys, you
within
need to
the next before the year is out for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
So peep those show notes. If their
Yeah,
podcast isn't down there, of course, check out an exciting video that you've put out recently. Check out his Instagram. You tweet. Twitter's
all
YouTube.
about
Everything
that.
is out there.
That's great.
So Peter, thank you for being
That
on.
creative hustle.
Yeah.
Hustle. Who am I? Hustle.
Gary
There
V
you go.
up in the
We'll see him
office.
next week.
We will. We'll be at Vid Summit. Whoop.
Come say hi.